Awesome, nice to meet you guys. So I am obviously a millennial, so before I get started, I'm going to take a selfie. I like to do this, and it's mostly to prove to my family that I have a real job. They think I just moved to Santa Cruz to be a surf bum, and I have to convince them every once in a while that I have a real job. But I probably have the best job of anyone in this room. I work, head of marketing at a motorcycle company. And there's a big reason why I'm lucky enough to have this job, and it was because of the person I'm announcing here today, or introducing today. I followed him here. He was a boss and mentor of mine at a previous company, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sam Paschel and a little bit about his unlikely path to CEO of Zero Motorcycles. So he studied engineering at Swarthmore College and quickly got into the helmet and head protection business here just up the street at Zero Helmets. He took that expertise and he went and moved out to Burlington, Vermont, where he worked for Burton Snowboards, one of the biggest lifestyle action sports brands in the world. And he went and he focused his expertise on creating the best business he could within that small category in their business. And he took it to be a tremendous success. Quickly, he rose through the ranks. He went from being in charge of the small category of helmets to then being in charge of bindings, which is a massive category in their company. And then quickly after that, a VP of marketing at one of the biggest, lifestyle brands in the world. So obviously, that's the logical path. You become an engineer, you get right into marketing. And then right after you get into marketing, you take the next best step and you become Chief Commercialization Officer at Skull Candy in Park City, Utah, which is where I worked for him. There, he was in charge of the product development team, and he was in charge of the marketing team, two identical functions in the company. But even then, as somebody that was being mentored by Sam and reported directly to Sam, even then, him wearing the hats of these two very different functions in the company, he proved very apt to taking on more responsibility. And it was very obvious as somebody that looked up to Sam and was being mentored by him that he was meant for something much larger. And so him becoming a CEO is definitely a good fit for him. But one thing that stands out is really his ability to be patient and coach people on his teams. One example of this is just in a one-on-one meeting I had with him a couple of minutes ago. I'm going to take up part of his time. And he asked me to do that. We got done with our one-on-one meeting because he would never say this about him. I've got to brag about him because he won't do it. After we got done with our one-on-one meeting where we covered our agenda, the last bullet point item he added, he said, "Okay, what's next?" I'm like, "Well, we covered everything. I think we covered all the things we need to cover." He's like, "No, for you. What is your next skill that we're going to develop, that you're going to put in your tool chest, that you're going to then take to your next job and offer to the world?" So that just is a characteristic that Sam definitely carries to his ability to coach a team. So here he is, Sam Paschel, CEO of Zero Motorcycles.
Hey Sam, you got 30 seconds.
No, he covered that. No, I covered that. And he covered, yeah. I'm just going to take questions now. Titan of tech. I came in early. I'd done a really bad job of communicating with Doug in the run-up, so I wanted to show up early to make sure I was prepped. And I'm like, "Oh, we're not letting people in yet." And then Chris explained, "No, he's here to present." She's like, "Oh, you're a Titan." And the very next thing was like, "I thought you'd be bigger." Like it implies a certain size. In the path that Chris sort of described, my career outside of college actually started in Santa Cruz about 18 years ago, and I worked for Bell Sports and Giro Sport Design. And about 3 years ago, I was invited back as part of a recruiting effort for the CEO position at Zero Motorcycles. So this has been a homecoming. I spent 6 years here at the very beginning of my career, and now I've been able to spend the last 3 here as the CEO of Zero. I could go through my path and the jobs that I've had, but Chris already did a great job of that. It's good. I didn't want to do that. I think that's kind of drawing a map of the path that I've been on. those photos are incredibly misleading. The upper left and upper right are like 12 years old. And the one in the middle is like the strain and stress of the current job really like wiped any kind of smile. Rather than draw you a map, which is not terribly interesting, I'd rather give you a compass as you walk out of here about how I've sort of found my way through a career. And in the process of doing that, talk a little bit about what we're doing at Xero. So I think it's critical that as you're trying to meander and find a way through a career that you have a way to sort of guide yourself through it. For me, it was never about money or title. There are a number of times in the path that Chris described that I've made moves laterally or even backwards in comp and in title for the sake of gaining the experience that I wanted. So it's going to be different for everybody, but for me, the three key things were, one, I have to be teaching. Number two, I have to be learning. And number three, I have to be doing something that I believe matters, that makes the world better. The teaching side gets to the mentoring and coaching that Chris had mentioned. I could do twice the time that I have on just that topic, but it's a personal passion. It's something that gets me out of bed every day. The second one is the learning, and for me that's really just about growth. And at every crossroads that I met, where I had a choice to make about what I did, I'd ask myself at the end of the next year on either of these paths, which of these two paths is going to force me to grow the most? When I look in the mirror a year from now, which of these two paths will create the more evolved person intellectually, professionally, socially, emotionally, culturally, spiritually, physically? If there's any greatness in me, which of these two roads is going to call to it? And inevitably, regardless of what the title or job or location was in the country, I chose the path that would force me to grow as much as possible. Now you get to a certain point, and a lot of that growth that you're going to see, it isn't going to come from mentoring relationships or your boss or your manager. It's going to come from the magnitude of the challenges that you try to solve. And that brings me to Xero. One of the things that gets me so excited about working there, beyond the fact that it's electric motorcycles, right? I mean, literally at high concept, it couldn't be a cooler job. It's an electric vehicle that's a motorcycle. It's like right there in the title. We're trying to revolutionize an industry that is surprisingly conservative in its approach on the motorcycle side. And in doing it, we have a company that has three really challenging pieces to it. Number one, we're a vehicle company. That means mechanical and electrical engineering requirements are massive in a heavily regulated space where the vehicle needs to be certified or homologated in 30 countries around the world. Number two, we're an industrial company. We build every one of those motorcycles right over the hill in Scotts Valley every year. 100% of our final manufacturing happens within 8 miles of where we're standing. And that's an industrial element of the company. And number three, we're a software company. We create a vehicle, unlike gas vehicles, that has a central nervous system. It has a brain. It's a thinking machine. It's the most advanced motorcycle in the world. And the companies we're competing with that are traditional don't have all of those problems that they need to solve every day. And the magnitude of those challenges, both for me and for all the employees that work there. I get to stand up here and talk about it, but it's the people that came before me and the people that are working there every day to make it a great place that really put me on this spot to be able to talk about the company. And the final piece is doing some good. Beyond the obvious pieces of the ecological and the environmental benefits of being a plug-in electric vehicle, we've managed to make what is the most transformational motorcycle riding experience in the world. Now, notice I didn't say electric. It's the most transformational motorcycle riding experience in the world. And when you come into Xero, one of the things I said to the employees very early on, you could be passionate about technology. You can be passionate about innovation or disruption. You can be passionate about environmentalism and ecology. You can be passionate about motorcycles and power sports. If you aren't passionate about any of those things, it's very likely you're walking into the wrong building every morning for work. And you should find someplace else to go that's going to call to the greatness that you have in you to be there. So we're over the hill. We're revolutionizing an industry. We're making a cooler and literally cooler and cleaner planet. And we are having a hell of a time doing it. And I encourage any one of you, come over, take a tour, get to know what we have going on over the hill. It's a special group of people. It's a special place to work. Thank you so much for the chance.
Thank you, Sam.